Greetings, everyone. Apologies for a little bit of the debugging. It wouldn't be a fun hybrid world, even 2 and 3 years in, without us still having a little bit of trouble. Thank you so much for standing with us. I do believe that everyone can see and hear us. If maybe you could give me a reaction or raise a hand. Excellent. I see some raised hands. Well, thank you all so much for joining us, and apologies again for our late start. I'm very excited to be welcoming you all here from rainy, cold, overcast Washington, D.C. But I'm so pleased to welcome you to the 2022 Evidence Summit on Impactful Interreligious Peacebuilding, co-hosted by the Alliance for Peacebuilding and USAID Local Faith and Transformative Partnerships Hub. My name is Jessica Baumgartner-Zuzik, and I'm the Deputy Executive Director of Research and Finance at the Alliance for Peacebuilding. For those of you who don't know us or wasn't able to listen to us when we went through this previously, the Alliance for Peacebuilding is an award-winning nonprofit and nonpartisan network of over 170 organizations, more than 30,000 peacebuilders and civil society actors working in 181 countries to prevent and reduce violent conflict and build sustainable peace. AFP's interfaith work through our effective interreligious action and peacebuilding program 1 and 2, and our peer learning community for evaluation of interreligious dialogue has developed a core organizational conviction that interreligious action plays an important and critical role in peacebuilding to prevent violent conflict and to build sustainable peace. So if we want to build more peaceful and resilient societies, we need inclusive, participatory, and whole of society programs that engage the broad community. The idea for this conference started a little over a year ago, working with 2 inspiring and very supportive colleagues of mine, where we identified a great need for diverse stakeholders to come together as a community to share and to reflect and to learn. And from this idea, we created the 2022 Evidence Summit on Impactful Interreligious Action to provide an opportunity for donors, for faith actors, for faith-based organizations, practitioners, researchers, policymakers alike to come and explore evidence on funding and partnering with local faith actors and faith-based organizations to support this more effective whole of society programming and policy. Now, it would not be an evidence summit if I didn't outline a few objectives for the event. So through the next day and a half, we would like to create opportunities to, 1, build bridges. How can we convene this diverse community to explore these shared priorities and develop relationships so that we can all broaden our interfaith network and network of individuals working on these key topics? We also want to foster better design and evidence-based evaluation so we can gather and learn from both emerging research and perspectives and the impact of interfaith action across humanitarian, development, and peacebuilding programming. And thirdly, we want to advance policy, practice, and partnership. How can we promote policies and programming practices that are inclusive of religious actors and faith-based organizations and have and generate partnership opportunities that support these same communities? I'd very much like to extend deep appreciation for the ongoing support and partnership of the GHR Foundation, Porticus, and of course our co-host today, USAID Local Faith and Transformative Partnerships Hub. And I'd also like to give a shout out to all of our incredible session conveners and participants and speakers who really helped curate and wrangle the agenda that we're all going to go through the next day and a half, for all of their tireless work to make sure we can really highlight and center the individuals and voices of those doing this incredible work. And of course, all of you for joining us today and staying with us through some of our technical challenges. I'd like to welcome our keynote speaker and hand off to Adam Phillips. I'm going to give him a brief introduction. But for those of you who may not know Adam, he's the Executive Director of the Local Faith and Transformative Partnerships Hub within the Development, Democracy, and Innovation Bureau, overseeing the one-stop shop to non-traditional and local partnerships. This includes locally led development initiatives, the New Partnerships Initiative, faith-based partnerships, diaspora engagement, and American schools and hospitals abroad. In this role, he serves as a co-senior leader for the agency's localization agenda, along with leaders from the Policy Planning and Learning Bureau, the Management Bureau, and the agency's front office. Adam is also the Biden-Harris administration appointee to lead USAID's Center for Faith-Based and Neighborhood Partnerships. The Partnership Center at USAID is part of the White House's White House's interagency faith-based and neighborhood partnership efforts, and serves as a critical partner with civil society around international development, humanitarian work, and diplomacy. The Partnership Center at USAID is working to strengthen democracy and stand with others on the path towards self-reliance and resilience, in addition to addressing the global COVID-19, climate, and human rights crises. For 2 decades, Adam has served as a pastor, a movement organizer, and strategist, working at the intersection of faith and public life, leading inclusive and multi-faith mobilization efforts for NGOs like the One Campaign, Bread for the World, World Vision, as well as electoral campaigns. He has a proven track record on national organizing to center local voices to bring about broad-based transformation. He's also a TEDx speaker, and his work has been featured in The Atlantic, CNN, Washington Post, NPR, Huffington Post, Relevant Magazine, and the Christian Broadcasting Network 700 Club. And before moving back to Washington, Adam co-founded and led Christ Church Portland, the first of its kind inclusive faith community in Oregon. So please join me in welcoming Adam, and I'll hand over to you.
Thanks so much, Jessica, and good morning. Yes, from a very rainy, it feels more like Oregon from where I'm from, day here in Washington, D.C., but we're really grateful for the Alliance for Peacebuilding, and definitely greetings to GHR and Porticus, to all friends in the fight for a more equitable world that is about dignity. We're just delighted to be part of this Evidence Summit these next 2 days, and I thought I'd open up with just a few thoughts on around this Evidence Summit on impactful interreligious engagement. Yes, I'm the executive director of the Local Faith and Transformative Partnerships Hub at the U.S. Agency for International Development, and we are delighted to co-host this 2-day summit with the Alliance for Peacebuilding, which builds upon the agency's 2020 Evidence Summit on Strategic Religious Engagement. This week's summit comes at a truly critical moment as we face compounding crises, including the ongoing impacts of COVID-19, the wreckage that COVID-19 and the pandemic has wrought on our systems. We think about the global food security crisis we find ourselves in, climate change, and the Russian Federation's unprovoked invasion of Ukraine. These and many other humanitarian crises and development challenges require a multifaceted response that leverages the distinctive contributions of diverse institutions, including government, faith-based and community organizations, philanthropy, academia, and the private sector. For those who are not familiar, on behalf of the American people, USAID promotes and demonstrates democratic values abroad and advances a free, peaceful, and prosperous world. In support of America's foreign policy, USAID leads the U.S. government's international development and disaster assistance through partnerships and investments that save lives, reduce poverty, strengthen democratic governance, and help people emerge from humanitarian crises and progress beyond assistance. Our objective is to support partners to become self-reliant and capable of leading their own development journeys. Since its inception, USAID has partnered with and alongside faith-based and community organizations to advance shared development and humanitarian objectives. And today, religious actors remain essential partners in the work we do around the world. This agency-wide commitment is embodied in the Center for Faith-Based and Neighborhood Partnerships, which itself has a 20-plus-year legacy of building bridges between USAID and religious groups to achieve sustainable, locally led solutions within our broader development agenda. These partnerships are critical as faith actors, both local and international, serve populations in some of the most vulnerable contexts in the world. They're often the first in and the last to leave, if not just truly permanently embedded in communities and neighborhoods, coping with development and humanitarian challenges. As a result, faith-based organizations often hold positions of special trust and provide essential social support in societies wary of their own government and outsiders. As we continue the impact of interreligious action this week at the summit, I want to highlight just 2 examples that underscore why USAID is so deeply committed to supporting interfaith and multi-faith partnerships. In Bosnia and Herzegovina, a country with a grim history of religious violence, USAID's flagship reconciliation program, Trust, Understanding, and Responsibility for the Future, PRO-Future, as we call it, actively engages citizens and key influencers across political, religious, and media spheres to foster trust and understanding across ethnic and religious divides. Through this project in the last year, USAID organized 208 events and implemented 58 small grants that engaged more than 10,000 citizens from all parts of the country. The project actively engaged citizens and government, political, religious, media, and civil society stakeholders in 105 municipalities. USAID completed 20 community rehabilitation projects and started 7 new projects to strengthen social cohesion and connect ethnic groups within and outside their local communities. Among other aspects of the program, USAID organized and financed numerous activities that brought youth together around music, films, literature, and other art forms to allow for intercultural dialogue to break down prejudices and stereotypes and facilitate understanding and cooperation. The agency also continued its peace education program in 65 schools, offering school workshops on peace education, living libraries, and public speaking out events to offer students, teachers, and parents new and different perspectives of the past. In addition to USAID supported programming on peace building and multi-faith engagement, the agency strives to approach faith communities humbly and with a posture of mutual understanding and learning in every engagement. In just this past October, USAID Deputy Administrator Isabel Coleman visited Cote d'Ivoire, where she convened an interfaith roundtable to hear firsthand how religious leaders are working to prevent violent extremism in the north and promote religious tolerance and peace throughout the country. In Cote d'Ivoire, interfaith leaders and their organizations have played an instrumental role in shifting public opinion and behavior and promoting reconciliation, social cohesion, and peace throughout the various crises the country has experienced since 1990. Deputy Administrator Coleman facilitated conversation with religious leaders from Muslim, Catholic, evangelical, and other Protestant communities throughout the discussion. The leaders reiterated their belief and commitment to freedom of religion and recognized the threat of religious and political extremism across all religious groups. The religious leaders described efforts to address the threat of extremism in their respective communities. The High Council of Imams, an influential Muslim Leaders Association, for example, sent representatives to mosques in northern Cote d'Ivoire to facilitate both medical treatment and conversations on the peaceful values of Islam. Evangelical leaders, the Evangelical Federation of Cote d'Ivoire, are working with the Ministry of Interior to prosecute cases of hate speech and extremism more effectively in the public square. And together, all of these multi-faith communities have created the Alliance of Religions for Peace in Cote d'Ivoire to advocate for social cohesion and a peaceful political process amid the country's history of political tensions and fraught transfers of power. These faith leaders set a strong example for interfaith dialogue, peace building, and collaboration. For USAID to be effective, it must continue to take seriously the role of religion in the countries where it has a presence, be aware of local context-specific religious dynamics, and be responsive to faith-based and community leaders and institutions. Importantly, we must continue to strengthen the evidence base on religious engagement and development and improve our ability to engage with faith-based and community groups. As I mentioned earlier, this year's gathering builds upon USAID's historic 2020 Evidence Summit on strategic religious engagement, which was an important focal point in telling and improving the ongoing story of scholarship and partnership between the US government and faith-based actors worldwide. With over 300 government officials, researchers, and practitioners from a wide range of religious and political backgrounds in attendance, the 2020 summit was an opportunity for relief and development professionals to explore the research and evidence around the role of faith engagement in development and humanitarian assistance, and to better understand how best to marshal these findings into more effective policies and practices. The summit was a landmark bipartisan effort to demonstrate not only the significance, but the academic import of the contributions faith-based groups make in pursuit of development outcomes. Of course, much has changed in the world since the Evidence Summit in October of 2020. COVID-19 has truly impacted virtually every sector of society and dramatically shifted development and humanitarian priorities. USAID worked towards ending the acute phase of the COVID-19 pandemic by providing over $5.7 billion in assistance to 120 countries to help vaccinate the world, including more than $700 million in assistance to help countries strengthen their vaccination programs. Today, we continue to work towards increasing vaccination rates, decreasing misinformation, and addressing the second order impacts of COVID worldwide. The pandemic response illuminated the important role of religious leaders and faith-based organizations, many of which work tirelessly to respond to immediate needs while also designing and implementing programming to increase vaccinations and address second order impacts. Following the 2020 summit and amidst the ongoing pandemic, USAID carried forward a renewed focus on principle-based policymaking and improving our practices in order to enhance partnerships with faith-based organizations and religious communities that advance shared development and humanitarian goals. I'm truly thrilled to announce today one of the most tangible outcomes of the 2020 Evidence Summit, a first of its kind USAID policy on faith-based engagement. USAID drew from the conclusions of the summit during the drafting of this new strategic religious engagement policy, which was written by a team across 4 USAID bureaus and a working group of diverse staff from various missions and bureaus. Building Bridges in Development, a policy on engaging faith-based and community partners, demonstrates the agency's commitment to strategic religious engagement approach that advances locally led action for sustainable solutions within our broader development agenda. The policy articulates a set of principles to guide the agency's religious engagement efforts and provide a framework for putting that engagement into practice. The policy has threefold purpose. First, it will improve collaboration between USAID and local religious communities and faith-based organizations to advance shared priorities, with an emphasis on inclusive, locally led development. Second, it will strengthen the capacity of USAID staff to conduct strategic religious engagement with full respect, inclusivity, and compliance. Third, it will more deeply integrate strategic religious engagement into the agency's evidence-based principle tools for addressing development challenges in all countries where USAID works. The policy was just released for public comment last week, and I'd like to invite you to review it and offer your feedback before the comment period ends at 5 p.m. Eastern this Sunday, December 11th. My colleague Alex Rice will drop a link in the chat now. You can also find it on our website in this link that she'll drop and offer your feedback. We really, really value your input and comments on the policy, which will serve to strengthen the capacity of USAID staff across all sectors and regions to work with local religious communities and partner with faith-based organizations. Finally, I'd also like to briefly highlight the development of a standard religious engagement curriculum for USAID staff to more effectively integrate religious engagement into their daily work. Developed in collaboration with the U.S. Department of State's Strategic Religious Engagement Team, the 5-day training titled Working with Religious Actors in Diplomacy and Development will be delivered to both state and aid field staff around the world. We are confident that this year's Evidence Summit will generate significant takeaways that will continue to shape USAID's strategic religious engagement efforts. Thank you again for your participation in the summit, and I look forward to continued engagement. Back to you, Jessica.
Thank you so much, Adam. So many wonderful points to kind of get us kicked off. And of course, great reflections in terms of the work USAID has done and continues to do. I'm very excited to share with everyone. We'll have a session tomorrow, a practice-oriented workshop on mechanisms for partnership with USAID. So if you're interested in learning more about engaging with or partnering with USAID, this will be a great session for you to actually work with USAID staff from the local Faith and Transformative Partnership Hub, as well as Adam highlighted, it's so important for us as a community to comment and contribute to the Building Bridges and Development policy. I myself am very excited to work on that later this week. So I welcome that to everyone as well to take the time to do that before the deadline. So thank you so much again, Adam, and thank you to everyone. I know we started a little rocky, but that helps break any tension we might have had. And I'm very excited just to share with you all. We have some great sessions coming up today. We're going to kick off after a few minutes here in a short break to look at our plenary, which is going to explore key barriers and practices for integration of faith actors in policy development and implementation, where we'll have various policymakers and implementers discussing different ways that they themselves have engaged or their governments or their institutions. It's going to be a great session right after following our quick break. We'll also have a roundtable bringing together debates on the state of evidence on religions in peace and conflict research. So where are we at? Where have we gotten to? And where are those low-hanging fruits and opportunities for us to continue advancing the field? And then we'll also have a session today focused on centering the perspectives of women and youth involved in multi-religious peacebuilding efforts across many different countries and contexts. It's going to be very exciting. And then we'll close out today with a final roundtable on making MEL accessible to faith actors and advancing and supporting new ways of producing research and evidence on faith and humanitarian development and peacebuilding programming. We do have a networking session at the end of today. That'll be an open session where you can come and meet colleagues, share some of your research, learn from other people's research, and really engage and get to learn this community a little bit more in an informal kind of group setting here. So I do encourage you to participate. And I do want to share that bright and early, because we won't be having a closing plenary today, but bright and early tomorrow, we'll also have a foundational and interactive session exploring kind of a fun way to practice evaluative thinking and apply critical thinking into the why we create programs, criteria and standards we set, and how we can tailor our programs based on participant feedback. I do want to flag that that is very much for individuals at the start of their evaluation experience who want to explore new ways to think evaluatively and apply evaluation to their everyday lives. And then otherwise, tomorrow we'll start the day with a thrilling conversation with Azza Karam, Secretary General of Religions for Peace at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. So with that, I'm so excited to have all of you here today. We'll take a short break and we'll come back for our first plenary session starting at 15 past the hour. And I encourage you all to come in and engage. There's a couple of different expo centers where you can look at new resources. You can also share resources that you'd like the community to see. Thank you so much. And I look forward to engaging with you today. And we'll certainly have, just a flag, we'll have interactive and Q&A sessions throughout the event. And we also have a live chat in the session lobby if you'd like to post questions or engage with us there. Thank you so much. And I look forward to learning from all of you today and tomorrow. I'll see you soon.